Greetings, salutations, and other big words. My name's Ethan. My handle is Wrangler. Welcome to Frequency Studios Weekly Wing It number 152 here on Rumble and YouTube. And coming up later tonight in about 1 hour from now, 45 minutes from now, I will be laying out the case. There's been a lot of talk all over the internet pushing to Nintendo to say, admit it, Samus Aran is a trans woman. It's canonical. Just admit it. Well, tonight I will be laying out the case why that is incorrect. But for now, so if you're watching this on the replay, just like move that slider bar about an hour forward, and we'll be getting started there. But starting off with me tonight is Mr. Frederick Guimone.
Woo! How you doing, Wrangler? What's up, man?
Doing pretty good. Also joining us tonight is the master of history, American history, Readout Productions. What's up, Readout?
What? Why is everybody saying Samus is trans?
We'll get into it because
I log on. I'm like, I'm not tired for once on a Monday night after work. It's been a while since on a weekly link. I get a hangout, talk, what's everybody up to, and this is what I see is in the headline. What?
Yeah, there's been
I'm doing good.
This comes up every couple of years, but the last few days there's been this big push and an article that came out where someone is trying to convince Nintendo to come out and say it and just make it official canon. So at 9 o'clock Eastern time, I will be bringing that up. I'll give the context, and then I will go through the literature and game history proving that it's just not correct.
Is this gonna be like WCW Nitro and they entered our second hour? Is there gonna be pyro? Oh, we're talking about the trans debate about Samus. That's the second hour. We're gonna have the pyro and everything. Nitro girl will be out there and everything dancing.
The main event. Well, joining us in the chat, we got MAJI-CHAN. Hey, Maji.
Hey,
she says,
Maji.
hello, walking home in the rain from work. Oh, this is a lousy time of year to walk in the rain because it's cold outside.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's been below freezing all day. We're not getting up to the 30s at all. So, or zero for Frederick.
Yeah, you wouldn't get any rain here at this time of the year. We've gotten snow since the mid-November, which is early, even for us by our standards. Like my car was almost snowed in the middle of November. It was kind of astounding, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare, but I mean, one time we got dumped on just like almost a foot of snow in October, and it was right after it drizzled for 3 days straight, and then the temperature dropped and
October?
it snowed. Yeah, and
Crazy.
because the leaves had not yet fallen off the trees, they were holding a lot of that snow, and since the ground was wet and soggy, the extra heavy weight up above just it made the trees top heavy on soft ground, and a lot of them fell over. Power lines went down everywhere. It was a total disaster. It was like one of the few times that sticks out in my mind that the state of Connecticut has declared an absolute state of emergency. It was pretty bad. Thankfully, it's all too frozen for anything like that to happen right now. So
It's pretty cold right now.
yeah. So what do you got working on there, Frederick?
So I'm doing an inking exercise, working on Jim Lee's Batman. So Batman and Robin here. Oh, I'm gone. I'm back. Here we go.
There's the button I'm looking for. Okay.
There's the button.
There we
Press the
go. Now we
button.
got that up there.
So this is a nice penciled piece by Jim Lee, who's, head of DC Comics right now, who's just been sold, right? Warner Brothers has been sold now to Netflix, if I understand correctly, which I rarely understand anything correctly. But
yeah, I guess the deal is not absolutely done, but that is now the plan. Who knows? Things can always change. You never know. But it looks like Netflix is going to be taking over control of Warner Brothers.
Fascinating stuff. So yeah, doing a little bit of practicing my inking skills because I pencil and ink my own stuff, but when you are working on your own stuff all the time, it's kind of nice to get out of your comfort zone and try to work on the masters. And maybe you pick up a few tidbits, you learn to improve your technique a little bit. It doesn't make you magically draw like Jim Lee, but you might learn a few things here and there that'll improve your basic skills. So that's part of my habits is, doing a little bit of practicing from time to time. And right now, I'm in between projects, just finished my campaign this Saturday, and I'm about to start the second book anytime now. So I'm trying to get in as much practice as I can before I kind of focus on the next book.
Speaking of which, let me roll your comic trailer here.
Thank you all so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. I especially appreciate Frederick Gaumont. I'm just going to call him out tonight because, I don't know, I want to make everybody else jealous. And also, he's got a great name. Thanks for coming on, everybody.
Frederick Guimont. Okay, that is actually a really cool scene. I really like that. That's cool. Damn. That looks really cool, Frederick.
Frederick, what are you working on right now, man?
I love that tune, man.
Dude, you'll be happy to hear. I just confirmed with the artist, the musician. He's going to be on our show tomorrow at 8. Proof of Comics. We're going to have Anonymal as our guest. It's going to be wild.
Right. Anonymal. And Maji says, by the way, congrats on the successful crowdfunding.
Thank you so much, Maji. It's been one hell of a ride. Like, I've been crowdfunding for 3 months and got a lot of help from all of you guys and all the commandos, a lot of Comicscape people and indie comics crowd who've just like helped me out so much in spreading the word, of course, financing the project, and just all in out encouragement. So thank you guys very much.
All right. And so the campaign is closed, but if somebody still wants to support or purchase a copy of your book when it's released, is there anything they can do right now?
So I closed the Fund My Comic campaign kind of automatically. I wanted to have a real end to it, and for the ending to be kind of real. You can't have FOMO without the mo. So, it's closed for now. I might have a second chance campaign. So when we go to the printer and we're about to get the printing done, which is going to be like probably late February, early March, then I might have a second chance campaign. But the Akira cover was a one-time special for the closeout. So I'm going to honor that and not make that cover available. So it's going to be a very limited series. I think there's a little over a dozen people who've ordered it. So it's going to be super limited edition. So people who have it, hold on to it. Might be worth something someday. So for now, so if you absolutely want to back it right now, you cannot on My Comic because it's closed. But I haven't closed the Geyser.fund campaign yet because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to double check a few things before I closed it down because I don't understand all the ins and outs of that yet. So if you want to go in and purchase it through there's nothing I can do to stop you for now. But I'm probably going to be putting that one to a halt until the second chance campaign next year as well.
All right. And Rita, what you got going on? I've seen a couple new videos pop up on your channel. What have you been working on?
Right now I'm taking a bit of a break of the Philadelphia videos. So throughout November and into December, I've been posting videos about Philadelphia history, mainly Revolution of Philadelphia history. I'm taking a bit of a break on them. I have three videos I could post left. Two of them, though, really aren't tied to Philadelphia. Just the ships we're talking about happen to be in port in Philadelphia, but the history far exceeds it. Then there's another one, which I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I did some B-roll filming around very quickly where the president's mansion used to be in Philadelphia. I have some opinions about how the National Park Service interpret it because they're very heavy focused on it's basically the slavery exhibit of Independence National Historic Site. That's what it is. And I'm like, that's important to talk about, but also we're just like, is there nothing here about like the president being here? Nope, nothing. I'm like, these are the foundations of the president's mansion. It's like, nope, it's just all about slavery. And I'm like, I get there were slaves in this house, and it's not good what George Washington did, basically breaking the Pennsylvania law, cycling out slaves from Virginia and Pennsylvania. But also, I'm like, can I learn about some of the big events that Washington and later Adams had to make decisions about in this room? This was the first White House, essentially. So I have B-roll of the exhibits they have there. And yeah, some of the exhibits aren't like, they're like the one part of the trip to Philadelphia. I'm like, yeah, this is what I expected, where you have all these supposedly high-tech exhibits and they're all busted up by people who don't appreciate history and, people who are just living like vagrants in the Independence National, or whatever you want to call it, the Independence Mall. Well, that was a tangent. So I want to do an episode about the president's mansion, but I don't know if I can tackle it without going off the rails like I just did. Then there's two that will come out next year. They're going to be very in-depth videos. I'm trying to keep them to half an hour. One will be about the oldest, oldest steel warship afloat in the United States. That's the USS Olympia. It goes back to 1895. And then I'll be talking about the USS New Jersey, which of course is on the New Jersey side of the Delaware. And that's the most decorated warship still afloat from the U.S. Navy. So a lot to talk about there. So yeah, I've been very busy. We did a video. What do we cover in our Philadelphia series? Well, we did Fort Mifflin, the fort that refused to surrender to the British. I mean, it got destroyed by the British. The Americans evacuated, but we never actually surrendered it. All that was left was the flagpole, but the flag was still flying at the end of the largest bombardment of the Revolution.
Hell yeah.
As it should be.
we jumped over, talked about Betsy Ross, and I weighed in on, did Betsy Ross really make the first Stars and Stripes? And the answer is very, very vague. there's a lot of evidence actually for it, but then there's equal amounts of no, it doesn't make any sense. The timeline doesn't add up. Then we visited where Tun Tavern would have been standing. There's nothing there. It's just a gaping hole where I-95 runs along the waterfront. But we did a video about Tun Tavern, where the United States Marine Corps is famed to have been founded in. It's a little exaggerated. I know everybody likes saying that the Marine Corps was found in a bar, but it's also like it didn't happen over one night. It was a recruiting office throughout the American Revolution. It just didn't happen in one day. And then I decided to post something from earlier in the year about a little ironworks outside of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I had this footage sitting around since June. I just didn't have time to sit down and edit it. So I just posted that Sunday just to do something a little bit different, since I've been talking about Philadelphia so long. Try to talk about some old subjects people are more familiar with me discussing. So yeah, I've been very busy with the channel. I'm thinking about I have ideas next year. I'm trying to plan what new videos I may create. I'm thinking there may be a second channel that may be created. I may be splitting Readout Productions into 2 separate channels. One to focus more on local history with shorter length videos I can make more frequently, and then reserve the bigger, more advanced productions for the main channel, like the retrace and histories when I go out to different sites. I'm thinking I may just split the 2 different spheres of interest, but time will tell if I will be able to work up the courage to do that, because when I'm not editing videos, I'm of course working all day at my day job, getting the snot beat out of me. It's not fun moving large wooden furniture in a snowstorm for customers who decide in a snowstorm that yes, they want to buy this giant console. People are strange.
It's not fun moving anything in a snowstorm.
No,
I can't imagine like furniture. Yeah, just screw that. Like the only time people usually do that is when they're in the middle of moving. They're scheduled to move to a new home, and weather just didn't cooperate, and they're like, "Well, we got no choice now." But
well, this isn't like somebody planned to come and pick up. I mean, that's obvious. I mean, that's part of the business, and I like that. You know, we ask for everybody to, hey, if you're going to come pick all this furniture up, you know, be sure to call ahead and make sure we have the staff on hand to assist you if you don't have your own helpers. But normally they just roll in unannounced and they expect little old me to load everything up single-handedly. It's like, thanks.
it keeps you in great shape, right? I mean, there's got to be silver lining somewhere.
It keeps you in great shape until, you know, things start falling and you start sliding.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey, Raven.
How's it going, Raven Nevermore? Welcome onto the panel.
Long time no see, Readout.
Yes, I do exist. I'm not dead yet.
I'm not quite dead yet.
Only mostly dead.
And are you still in school, Readout? Because I used to hear you mention that a lot, but I haven't seen you lately, so I don't know if you're still if you finished or if you're or not.
Wrapping up superlative classes as the time allows. I'm kind of not in a rush at this point. Just with how the holidays. Well, this whole fall has just been busy, so it's like, oh, I'm going to get classes today. Oh, that's not going to happen today. Well, I'll work on those tomorrow. I'll work on them the next day. Currently how I'm enrolled, we're not even dealing with like main college curriculums anymore. We're kind of doing it for third parties where you pay a subscription, you do the classes, but there's no deadline other than do you want to keep paying this every month subscription type deal. So that helps out a lot. Allows me to be able to work, do the day job, go out, do the videos. So that's kind of where I'm handling the classes. It's almost done, but man, these past few months have been wild.
Now, Maji says, I don't know, with Young Washington coming out, this might be your chance to shine, Readout.
Well, that's a interesting idea. I'm going to be honest. I really don't have high hopes for Young Washington. I hope I'm proven wrong. I really do. But the material culture is really rough in that trailer for me. So it's already getting me a little worried. Hopefully the story has a heart of gold, or, seems to at least care about the events, gets it somewhat right. But currently them uniforms and some of them battle formations, yeah, they ain't lining up to the historical events. And they're always getting me a little upset.
Now, is this made by the same people who made Young Frankenstein?
That'd be a very different movie.
Now,
I'd line up to see that one.
I would
mind,
too, to be
folks,
fair.
keep in mind, folks, when something's coming out, you know how there's a lot of this lately. People are like, oh, see that? It's ruined before it started. Oh, this is going to suck. None of us want to say that. None of us. We
I
want
don't
this
either.
stuff to be good. We do.
I'll be going to see it in theaters. Don't worry. I'll probably will make a video about hey, Young Washington trailer dropping made me work up the energy to actually do a live stream a few weeks back to talk about it. So the most recent episode of Uncut History, I think it was a month ago, it's still on the main channel if you want to hear my whole thoughts about the Young Washington trailer. I want to really like this, but this kind of looks like they just went to ye old wardrobe shop in Hollywood and went, yep, this'll do. And that's what's getting me very worried. I'm hoping at the very least, if the material culture ain't great, they at least portray the events. What's the way to describe it? Earnestly. I think that's the term I'm looking for. It's like, that's not what they would have been wearing, but yeah, they got basically the rough course of events right. Because what Young Washington has to do, from the trailer I've seen, they got to set up George Washington when he was in his early 20s, how he got employed with the Ohio Land Company, which was based in Virginia and had claims over what is now Western Pennsylvania, which is why Washington was sent out by the colony of Virginia to initially negotiate the British Empire to be able to settle in the region, negotiate with the native tribes. Then that led to the French coming into the region, making their own negotiations with the native tribes to rival what the British were doing. This culminates in a shootout between Washington's Virginian troops, which, keep in mind, were backed by the British Empire, against French troops. A French officer is killed. Washington is blamed for that. The French retaliate and attack Washington's encampment at Fort Necessity, which was a complete mess. It poured rain. All of his gunpowder was useless. He couldn't really do anything but defend himself with bayonets, while the French and their native allies stayed in the tree line and were completely sheltered from the rain.
Yeah.
No problem with
So
powder.
the French said
Vive
no
la
poutine
France.
for you.
Yeah. And then what the movie is going to probably crescendo to, and this is what I'm seeing in the trailer, they're going to do they're going to do the Jumonville Glen incident. They're going to do Fort Necessity. And then Washington at this point was basically disgraced. Nobody wanted to hire him. But when the British sent the regular army to handle matters, because we can't trust Virginia anymore, they blew this out of proportion. They've started a war. When they send General Braddock over, Braddock invites Washington on as a volunteer aide, which was very lucrative, not in money, but the fact that you're going to get to be under the wing of this high-ranking British officer that's coming to basically conquer the Ohio country for the British. Hey, it's going to look really good for your records if you're part of this successful campaign. Unfortunately, we all know Braddock is not remembered for a victory, but for a defeat. He did not do well fighting in the wilderness against the French and natives. And Washington is actually forced to take charge of the whole British army when the general was mortally wounded during the battle. And that's what the movie is going to likely discuss. It's going to talk about Washington being sent first out as an envoy, then his involvement at the Jumonville Glen incident and Fort Necessity, triggering the 7 Years' War, as it's known in Europe, and then culminating with his involvement in the Braddock campaign. For the record, all of that, what I've just described, is covered in detail on my main channel in many videos. Like, this is my bread and butter. So I really hope they do it well. And it's the story, the historical event I'm most passionate about, the French and Indian War. So I want to see it portrayed right on screen. There's only one movie that's done it right, and that's Last Mohegans, and that was in 1992. So that's the measuring stick Angel Studios has on me.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I'm not giving them a shortcut.
Last of the Mohegans. Now, I noticed it was spelt with a C, but the Mohegan tribe where I live is spelt with a G. Are they two different tribes?
I don't believe so. I do believe spelling can change depending where you are. Like the Mohegan name has been spelled in a few different ways. It may be though, because
I think it's based on the book title.
yeah, I think the book title may be very Anglicized. Like, so I'm looking briefly. So you have Mohican, which is like the last of the Mohicans, and then you have the Mohegan, which is what Wrangler's referring to, and it is listing them as separately. Although they are both in the same like Algonquian. I think they're both. Are they both Algonquian? Let me see.
Well, I
Yeah,
know around here the Mohegans and the Mashantuckets, they're both Algonquin tribes. In fact, really the only difference between them, ethnically, they were pretty much the same. What separates them is what we nowadays call the Thames River.
I would say I'm just really looking at the Google. Yeah, very highly appreciated source here. It seems that the Mohegan with a G, they're more centered to like toward the East Coast, like Connecticut, where the Mohican, which are from the famed story, they're more centered in the Hudson River Valley up in New York. But there's probably a lot of similar dialect linguistically between the two. It just probably they fractured over time and, shared a similar name, but, grew distant apart.
Yeah. I think pretty much most of the Northeast, they were all Algonquin, weren't they?
No. So you had the two big, I guess you want to say two big, like, languages. You had Algonquian and you had what they would call Iroquoian.
Okay. Algonquin is primarily the East Coast, the Upper East Coast, I think, right?
So Algonquian is much more widespread.
Algonquin.
Algonquian's much more widespread. Iroquoian is very central to New York and around Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. But there are some usage of the Iroquoian language similarities if you go down into the Carolinas.
Because I do believe, like, I can't remember the name of the local tribes in the Delaware area, but I believe they were also Algonquin. I was doing research.
The Delaware were, yes. Yeah,
I was doing research on the legends of Pukwudgie, which, believe it or not, Indians have mythology legends of gnomes. The Pukwudgie were gnomish beings in their mythology and beliefs. So yeah, when I was drawing on that to establish the culture of a tribe of gnomes, and I was like, oh, cool. American gnomes, USA.
Yeah, we have
some
American gnomes.
Yeah, there's a fascinating amount of similarities between different cultures that like supposedly never had any contact with each other.
Well, look at the Sasquatch here in the Americas versus the Yeti. I think, is that in the Himalayas? They're almost like described in the same way. It's just like, you got your grizzly bear, you got your polar bear, you got your Sasquatch, you got your Yetis. It's like
So if
snow
you
Sasquatch.
If you want to hear an even more interesting story about those, during Vietnam, there's stories about various different soldiers reporting on things that look like Sasquatches or Yetis running around in the jungles.
That's weird. I don't think my brother's ever been hanging out in the jungle. I joke around saying smoking stunted my growth because I'm 6 feet tall, but then they see my little brother who's 6'8", and I also joke that my parents were recreating past hominids. I'm the Neanderthal and he's the Sasquatch. But then there's my older brother who's the computer programmer. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, we're big lugs. So about your other channels, is Heterochrome Media / Fubar Digital Lounge, is that still a thing for you? Or
I would like it to be a thing. I mean, I enjoyed making the Blue Gender review. What was that, last March, I think? February, March. I just haven't found the time. I had a few scripts started for a few other things I wanted to review, and it just never got off the ground this summer. I mean, I'm hoping next year I can go back and do more with it, but that's just my issue. I pour so much energy into just the videos on the main channel, but I also know that I think I have maybe too much of a mixed bag, like on the main channel. There's just too much variety, which I like variety. I want to show that I'm not just I'm just a one trick pony to like, no, I have interests in many different fields, but the TubeU algorithm doesn't appreciate variety. Apparently it doesn't know how to promote you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, promotion nowadays can be very tough because everything, I mean, on one hand, it's a double-edged sword. Everything being so decentralized now, that means so many people have opportunities we've never had before. But on the other hand, there's so much stuff going on at once that we don't have a monoculture in this country like we used to. Everybody's broken into their different little subgroups. It's like walking into a high school cafeteria and everybody's at their tables. You know, they got the nerds, the jocks, the goths, the Valley girls, and just the cheerleaders, the chess club. It's just like everybody's got their own tiny little subculture,
the bar is so
and they know
low that-
nothing about each other.
The bar's so low that everyone has a show. So when you're trying to get, like, that's the thing with our comic book show tomorrow. Like, we're on Tuesday evenings, but like a lot of my friends have a show on the same evening. It's like, hey guys, how are we going to get any people watching if we're all competing the same night? Like, no one's watching our shows because everyone's out doing their own show at the same time.
And the funny thing is, I looked at when everybody I was aware of that I follow or whatever is having shows, and I picked Monday night because nobody else had anything going on that night.
And now
And you did the same with Tuesday because, like, the rest of the week, we all knew somebody who was having shows on the rest of the week, but nobody had them on Tuesdays. So you grabbed Tuesday night. And now we all know people who are having streams at the same time. I mean, as we network and meet more people, it's bound to happen. There's going to be others who are already in that time slot.
You can't really avoid it, but
and hey, we're going up against juggernauts like Tim Pool, who has his live show at that time and one of the biggest live shows on YouTube.
Well,
I don't think it's the biggest, but he's definitely up there. And you know, so we're competing with that, and I'm not complaining about that because, you know, he's having discussions that need to be had. He's, for better or for worse, he's bringing up things to be discussed instead of having it just, you know, people griping to their own selves. People can actually get out there and discuss these ideas, compare, contrast, and see if it holds up to scrutiny. So that's definitely on the world stage a far more important topics to be discussed. We're discussing entertainment, but I mean, in some ways, it's just as important because we're discussing our culture, our popular culture. Just like it's what binds a lot of us: shared ideas, shared values, shared mythologies. That does hold communities and cultures together. So these things are important as well, but not in the same way.
But Raven, I think you're starting to bring up a good point there. That Tim Pool may pull some of his main shows off of YouTube. There's several creators; they're pulling their live streams off the platform.
Let's get into that in just a moment. Let me just catch up with the chat real quick. Maji said the Great Flood shows up in almost every culture, and yeah, that's true. Across the world, they all refer to the Great Flood. And then she says, at this rate, YouTube is canceling channels like they are insects due to their AI bots. Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion in itself.
Twitter's doing the same thing with people's accounts. I saw 2 comic book creators getting their account canceled, like Salty and Michael Bancroft.
Yeah, but that is also another discussion on its own.
Yeah,
but
just saying, like it's not just YouTube.
But Raven, you had something to address concerning Tim Pool and probably in relation to the shooting that happened at his compound, right?
So he's not just pulling the show off YouTube. He's looking at pulling the podcast. He may keep his one-man show continuing, But because of the because of all the security and everything else going on, it's getting really dangerous for him. And so he's like, I may just have to shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, I watched that video from him this morning too, and that's crazy. I mean, just a couple months off the heels of what happened with Charlie Kirk,
Yeah.
and there's been upticks in political violence. I mean, he's. I don't know if he's. I know he talks about uh, the prospects and possibilities of civil war all the time, and you know, I personally think we are in one. It's primarily fourth and fifth generational right now, but there is some kinetic happening. It's not fully kinetic, thankfully, and I hope and pray that it does not go that way. But
Well,
things are escalating, and it's not fun.
in a way, it already has with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, but when I say fully kinetic, I'm talking about pockets of violence all over the place.
Yeah.
We're seeing instances of it, but not like full blown conflicts breaking out as of yet. And I hope we don't.
Yeah, it's the early markers, and hopefully with a bunch of the various different things currently going on in the news, hopefully some of that may help, but I don't know. It's going to take a while to find out what happens.
Now, we all have the idea of Civil War in our head based on the Civil War that happened in the 1800s. Thankfully, Readout's here. I'm sure you know a thing or two about that. But, a lot of people think that if we were going to have another Civil War, it would look like it did back then. Readout, what's your take on that?
I would not.
Yeah,
It's not going to look like 1861 and 1865. This
Yeah.
is, I agree with most people when they're like, the Civil War's coming, the society's breakdown. Like, if it would even break down to the point of actual like factions fighting it out, don't look to the American Civil War of the 19th century as an example. Look something more to like all the civil wars you hear about in the Middle East.
Serbia.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, we could talk about the Balkans as well. Yeah.
That was what I was. That's kind of what I've been thinking about as far as Civil War is just the Serbian Civil War.
Now, could you give us a breakdown on what those look like and contrast them to our 1800s Civil War?
So, well, Readout may have a better idea because I just kind of.
Oh, I was asking Readout, but
So, long story short, in the Balkans and Europe, when the Soviet Union collapsed, well, this will start even before the collapse of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union was letting its satellites in the Eastern Bloc go one by one, becoming more, they can go off and make their own countries. What you end up happening was you had these countries that had arbitrary borders for about 30 or 40 years, and all of a sudden they've just been lifted. And everybody was like you had all these different ethnic and cultural groups together in these arbitrary borders. And when they start having public elections, well, they very quickly were getting rigged, and you had all sorts of nationalist groups go for different factions, different ethnicities, and these countries that were trying to become, I guess you want to say, democratic from the communist way, they immediately broke down and just started collapsing in upon themselves. So you'd go with one country that had been unified with communism for 30 years. They go vote. Nobody agrees with the elections. Fighting breaks out all across. Then they start partitioning off into smaller countries, which then themselves start imploding amongst themselves because they have ethnic groups within those subsections. The most famous of the Balkan Wars is the Bosnian War, which the city of Sarajevo was besieged for 4 years. The only thing I can compare it to would be Stalingrad during World War II and Aleppo in Syria, which is the siege of Aleppo still going on today in Syria? I think it went on forever, but that's what it was. When we talk about balkanization, where basically a country implodes in upon itself. The Civil War in the 19th century for America is a little interesting because you have two very distinct governments going at each other. Most civil wars are very messy. They're very ugly. They have multiple factions. Some are formal governments. Others are just insurgent groups. And don't get me wrong, during the American Civil War, you did have insurgent groups, but generally the boundaries were pretty well defined by the Mason-Dixon line and then running west between states that were considered free states, states that were considered slave states. Of course, you had a few exceptions with the border states, like Maryland was a Union state that accepted slavery, but the two factions were relatively easily defined. The Confederacy had its own established government. It had its own established currency, own established infrastructure, which was already built in when they seceded. But the point still stands that infrastructure was there. If what would happen today in the United States, there's so many different groups, culturally different groups, and they're not defined by state boundaries anymore. That's not the case. They are very regionalized and they're mixed in with each other. I think a perfect example would be Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, as an example, you have two big cities that are very, if you're getting into politics, definitely lean toward the Democratic Party. And then you have a wide ground in the middle within the mountains, and those tend to be moderate. It depends where you're at, slightly leaning to the Republican Party right now. But you have your two big cities on the west and east side of the state. They control all the politics of the state of Pennsylvania. And then you have everybody else in the middle. So if you had a hypothetical civil war in Pennsylvania, what's going to happen? You're going to have these two or three landlocked cities surrounded by all these other dissenting groups, and it's just going to completely implode upon itself. I just use it as a hypothetical, what balkanization in a state would look like. I don't want to know what it would look like on a state level, let alone a national level.
Yeah, I remember one particular story where I thought it was Serbia, but I could be wrong. It could have been one of the other ones where this guy, he was from one particular faction and he didn't know who these people walking around this park were, so they weren't part of his faction, so they were the enemy. He set up his machine gun and he just started shooting away.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's in pockets all over the place or two lines coming up, it's messy and it's nasty either way. And do you see any possibility of de-escalation in the near future?
I would like to. I mean, what do you mean by de-escalation? Like that we're not going to get as violent anymore, like real world violence, or we're talking about all the rampant. I guess you want to call all the culture war stuff. What do you mean by de-escalation?
Oh, it's probably all interconnected, but
Yeah.
But like we see the escalations during excuse me, during the campaigning for the last election. I mean, Trump actually got grazed by a bullet when surrounded by what's supposed to be the world's greatest security team. That still happens. Charlie Kirk gets shot in front of a live audience and murdered right there. And I don't have know off the top of my head, but exactly what. I don't have receipts on this. I've heard that there are other politically motivated shootings happening around the country here and there, like nothing on that scale, but they are going
the other
on.
day.
Yeah, Tim Pool, his compound got shot at, and I know we have little information about that, but the probability of that not being politically motivated is almost nil, and that's just my opinion. I can't prove that, but
the other one that I know is politically motivated is Benny Johnson. When the FBI showed up with the local police and took the guy into custody and stuff, he's been trying to get Benny Johnson to shut up and die or something because he doesn't like what he's saying.
Yeah, and this is just getting way out of hand, and people seem to feel justified in making these shootings, or else, frankly, if they didn't think there was some kind of justification for it, they probably wouldn't be trying it. And I'm hoping to see a way where like people finally go, you know what, this is getting insane. We need to chill out and like breathe and like reassess. And I personally don't currently see, I guess an off ramp where that's going to happen. It just seems to be intensifying. And I'm wondering if there's some way where this can all just, is there anybody who's got the pull to go out there and say, hey, chill out and actually have people calm down and just reassess, or are they so caught up in their absolutism that there's no way to stop until it's like it has to come to a head before it cools down?
Well,
I think what I would say is, and this is probably gonna be taken the wrong way. When you see these moments
This
of
is
like,
the internet. Everything is taken the wrong way.
you know what, you're right. You are right on that. When you have political escalation, you have a political violence escalate in the United States or in any country that matter. Usually, what subdues it for a time is some sort of existential threat, something that's able to kind of presses everybody hand to go, okay, we can't deal with that for right now. We got to go do something else. I mean, you can see that. I would say during probably, well, I mean, the Civil War, we didn't really have the existential. We made the existential threat was that we couldn't handle what the debate over slavery, and we just decided we couldn't take it anymore. But I guess you want to say like the Great War, when it happens in 1914, you know, there was a lot going on in the United States leading up in the early 1900s, a lot that doesn't get talked about. Everybody just thinks, you know, one day we decided to go join the Great War. We had a lot going on within the United States because we had our Red Scares we were handling with, all that crazy stuff. And then initially we weren't supposed to be involved in the war until 1917. There was a lot of labor unrest in the coal fields in West Virginia, down into Tennessee at that point. A lot of that got put on the back burner because we were now going to war. We had to put all of our services together for the betterment of the country. And then after that, of course, then it re-escalated again, the labor disputes, and that culminates in the West Virginia Mine War. So I don't know. I think it's something like, I don't want an existential threat to happen to the United States, but I mean, that probably would subdue a lot of the infighting for a time.
yeah.
So would you call the state of our country right now an equivalent to the Bleeding Kansas phase?
If you're talking about it in terms of the culture, there are some similarities. Definitely, when I talk about Bleeding Kansas, I tell people Bleeding Kansas went on since 1854, where you had people literally getting up, moving all the way out to Kansas to go do battle with their ideals. It was the American Civil War, just without an official declaration. People were intentionally going into Kansas to cause bloodshed for whichever side they supported. Either you were, you're either for or against the expansion of slavery, and you were going to fight out. Most people figured it was just an isolated incident and kind of acted like, oh, well, those are just Kansas. It's not going to come back to hit us. And then John Brown came to Harper's Ferry, then Virginia, and tried to raid it. He brought Bleeding Kansas to the east. And though he failed in taking the federal arsenal and armory and trying to incite a slave rebellion in Virginia, what he did exceed was shaking the whole nation and making them realize that, there's the conflict is inevitably going to become national.
And in about 6 minutes, I'm going to be laying out the Samus's trans issue that's been being pushed all over YouTube the last few days.
Speaking of the culture war.
Yeah. But question I have for you, Readout. Everybody refers to slavery being the big issue of the Civil War. At least that's the one that sticks in our minds now. Now, while it was a big issue that contributed to it, from what I want to understand, it wasn't the one and only, or necessarily the absolute biggest issue that got everything going. Is that correct?
I will still stand to this day that slavery was the major contribution to the American Civil War. Now, by the time that the southern states secede, I think everybody had many, many grievances at that point that went beyond slavery. They had a lot of issues with how federal power had been exercised, not just recently going into the past decades. I mean, the American Civil War was inevitably going to happen the moment that you started having stuff like the Three-Fifths Compromise being established, slavery being taken right out of even discussion when it came to the initial Declaration of Independence, and later then they had to deal with the Three-Fifths Compromise when they established U.S. Constitution. It always was the can of the slavery debate was being kicked down the line. Now, there's a lot of other things that happen, a lot of stuff with federal powers. Actually, a lot of it has to do with Andrew Jackson's presidency. It's very interesting. And Andrew Jackson, everybody brings him up. Oh, he's
the one that kicked the Federal Reserve out of America at that time, wasn't he?
What he ended up doing, he did a lot of stuff with how he ran the federal government, and he actually basically went from the South's idol to the South's most hated individual at one point. People forget, in the 1830s, we almost had a civil war over the nullification crisis, where essentially some people in South Carolina.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Essentially people in South Carolina, and this actually gets roped into about the tariffs in the 1830s, and if you want to know where Trump gets his love for tariffs from, it comes from Andrew Jackson.
Wasn't that also about the time that New England had a whole bunch of problems and they were complaining about possibly leaving?
We still have a whole bunch of problems, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not the best of mind right now to speak about the nullification crisis, because that's a whole discussion itself. Even I only know the rough details. Essentially, South Carolina pushed for the tariffs of I shouldn't say everybody in South Carolina. Representatives in South Carolina, they pushed for these tariffs to be imposed, mainly because they were hoping it was going to force Jackson to not support them. They were kind of hoping it was were trying to psych out Jackson or something like that. And essentially Jackson went through with it. He's like, okay, this is what you wanted. This is what the House and Senate voted for. Okay, I'll sign into law. And then representatives of South Carolina went, no, we don't want the tariffs. It's like, well, you push it into law. So it was a whole political game that completely backfired on that House and the Senate. And then of course, everybody wanted to nullify the tariffs, and it went to the point that Jackson threatened to send federal troops into South Carolina to force the tariffs, to force them to be enacted upon.
Okay. If you guys could excuse me for just 1 minute, I will be right back.
He's run away.
He bravely ran away. He bravely ran away.
But yeah, you'll see a lot of stuff, arguments over the use of federal powers from the moment of the American Revolution, and it keeps building and building. But that ties in with the slave argument, because there was the debate: is this a federal issue or is it a slave issue? Is this a state matter? And it just kept building and building, and they kept making compromises and resolves that never were going to last more than a few months. And it just finally, by the election of 1860, the election of 1860 is one of the most unique presidential elections. We got 4 different parties running. Now, that wasn't too uncommon to have multiple parties on equal footing, but the 1860 election, nobody really had a significant majority. And I think you really look at the battle lines being drawn there. We know
the Northern Democrats and the Southern Democrats, right?
So the Democratic Party fractured in 1816. So you had the Southern Democrats who were full on, slavery's a state matter. The federal government can make no statement on it. They elected John C. Breckinridge. Funny enough, he'd become a Confederate general, and he was former vice president. I think he was the youngest vice president in American history, too. John C. Breckinridge was the candidate for the Southern Democrats. Then you had Stephen Douglas, who remained with the Democrats in the northern states. He was the official representative of the traditional Democratic Party in the North. Of course, we had Abraham Lincoln as a Republican Party. This is the second major election for the Republican Party. And then you had the Constitutional Union Party that nobody talks about. They elected John Bell, and they were largely popular in the border states. And essentially, the Constitutional Union was, please don't go to civil war, because if you start fighting each other, guess where all the battles are going to happen? In our states. So that's kind of what led to the election of Lincoln, and of course led to upset in the southern states because it wasn't a significant majority. It was, quarters. It was Lincoln had technically gotten the majority of the election, but it was much lower than historically in other elections, and that's what leads to everybody declaring they're seceding. And the thing is, why slavery is the main issue inciting the Civil War, at least politically. Just look at just about every state Constitution that's made for the Confederacy, every Declaration of Independence by a Southern state during the Civil War. They're all going to cite slavery in some capacity.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
and at the government level, that was known, but at the soldier level, like I don't know that a lot of people knew or understood a lot of that stuff. Because I remember seeing an interview with some guy who was a Confederate soldier. It's an old video, and he he joined up and stuff because his people came and were attacking his neighbor's yard or his neighbor's place, the farm and stuff, and so he joined up to and that's basically what all the neighbors were signing up for, is that their land had been invaded.
Yeah. Well, we can return to this, but it is now 9 o'clock.
Ooh,
And
it's the second hour of the weekly Langit. Cue
Yes.
the pyro.
It's the top of the hour here. So it's time to address this whole push that's been going around about Samus being trans. Let me start off with a little bit of mood music here. Let me fire this up. A little bit of a metro. All right. And we are going to space to address our favorite bounty hunter, Samus Aran.
Jewish space laser.
I had to play that one. I haven't played that during the stream in a while, just at the end. I had to throw that in there. All right. So first, all over YouTube the last couple of days, the music isn't too loud, is it?
I don't think so.
Okay. So last couple of days, it's been blowing up all over YouTube that a actress named Abigail Thorne was pushing the Samus trans bit, but that stems back to an article from 2015. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to get some context going, and then I'm going to lay out all the in-canon reasons why this just cannot be true. I mean, if somebody wants to play a game and apply any headcanon they want to the character, that's their prerogative. But in the actual lore and the canon, it just simply is not correct. So we'll get to that. Let me bring up this screen here. All right. Now, this is an article that dates back to September 1st, 2015 by author of the article is Carolyn Cox. And I'm sorry, but just considering, that's kind of an ironic name to have considering the nature of this article. But the article is entitled, Metroid Samus Aran is a transgender woman. Deal with it. So the article says, there's been a lot of talk lately about the lack of women protagonists in video games, but our problems with diversity don't stop there. As one article recently noted, shockingly, there have only been 14 playable black women in video game history. Gamers who aren't cisgendered white men often find themselves lacking characters they can rally behind. Okay, so typical identity politics there. I'm gonna.
So just to make sure I understand, she's basically saying that Samus is a man.
Yeah, she is.
So this is even less representation than before.
Yeah, I mean, I often refer to Samus as the first lady of gaming, but this is kind of from the same crowd that's constantly pushing we need more female representation. Then they want to take our first lady of gaming and turn her into a dude, which doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. Okay, the article goes on. Representation for transgender people is equally tough to find in gaming. Both Danganronpa, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that title properly, and Persona 4 managed to blunder transgender representation. One of the most famous transgender video game characters, Poison from Final Fight, is empowered but blatantly over-sexualized. Characters in stories like this reinforce the harmful idea that transgender women only have societal value in their sex appeal. Now I'm just thinking of that Family Guy scene where all the New Yorkers flooded their town for leaf peeping, and Quagmire went to hit on a chick and found out the chick was trans. He's like, he goes, wait a minute, are you pre-op or post-op? He's like, pre-op. He goes, oh, never mind. But anyway, the article goes on. That's why I'm thrilled to tell you that one of the most famous women in video game history happens to also be a transgender woman. It's none other than Nintendo's Samus Aran. It's true. In 1994, the writers of the official Japanese Super Metroid strategy guide asked Metroid's developers if they could share any secrets about the intergalactic bounty hunter. Hirofumi I hate getting names wrong, Matsuoka, I think that's correct, who helped work on the original design for Samus Aran, claimed that she wasn't a woman, but instead, there's something in Japanese, but the translation is new half. This language has its own issues, but terminology used for gender in the early 90s was as different in Japan as it was in the West. All right, there has been some debate asking if the comment was in jest or genuine. Some have compared Matsuoka's use of new half to the offensive Western term she-male. I didn't even know that was considered offensive. All right. It's possible to interpret this as an ugly joke about Samus's traditionally masculine appearance, as illustrated in the 80s by Nintendo Power, where she is said to be 6'3" and 198 pounds. That is her canon height. She is 6'3", but there's a pretty good reason for her being as tall as she is. Remember, she has been infused with Chozo DNA, and the Chozo a lot of them tend to be taller than humans.
Did he mention if she was pre-op or post-op?
It was pre-op.
See, I figured the reference to Chozo or whatever was where they came in, where she was like half and half, or not necessarily completely human.
She was born completely human.
Yeah,
we'll actually address that when I go through.
Okay.
I have a bunch of things to lay out to prove why this just isn't the case. All right. First of all, the guy who said that was somebody working on a strategy guide, not an actual designer. He said he got that from one of the designers, but it's already debated that was probably him being facetious, or we don't really know. There's language barriers, cultural differences. But this is pretty much the only case from anyone who worked on anything to do with Metroid who has commented on that. In fact, I wish I knew where the article was, but somebody did actually ask Yoshio Sakamoto, the longtime series producer who's been with it since the first game, if that was true. And he said something to the effect of, there's as much chance of Samus being trans as there is a Metroid series game being ported to the PlayStation 2. Which we know Nintendo, that does not happen, period. But anyway, looking to negate Matsuoka's remarks, some gamers have pointed to the FAQ on the Japanese Zero Mission site by Yoshio Sakamoto. Oh, this is probably it right here. Co-director of Metroid. There he says Samus being a new half is not impossible, but unlikely. Oh, really? But new half in Japanese is pretty much saying a cross-dresser. Not a trans. New halves, from what I understand, they would dress in drag, but they live as dudes. They don't go around living as women. And let's see, but unlikely. Others have pointed to Samus's portrayal as a child in Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid Other M, and official manga is proof that she's actually a cisgender woman. Blah blah blah. This is where we get into the uglier world of cis-normativity and transgender erasure. Over the years, Nintendo has slowly altered Samus's design into a petite blonde woman with large breasts. What's wrong with that? Now, she's still 6'3". Finding her sexually attractive, some gamers are flat out uncomfortable thinking about her as a transgender woman because it conflicts with the lore. That's why, and I will lay that out. Well, anyway, that's the original article, but a few days ago, here we go. Here's the article by Sam Woods, published 3 days ago. Baldur's Gate 3 actress wants Nintendo to canonize popular fan theory that Samus is a badass trans bounty hunter. And pretty much refers back to the article, pushing for that. And I'm going to drop both these articles in the chat. Let me just copy paste these, and then I will lay everything out. Okay. So that way everyone watching now or in the future can reference those articles and see for themselves to make their own choices. So I'm gonna have to put these in the description as well after the show so they can be accessed on the replays. Let's see, paste. Boom. All right. Links to the articles are in the chat, and like I said, I'll reapply them to the description afterwards. Okay, but yeah, there was a push for that on Zelda too. I guess they wanted Hunter Schafer to play the role. But anyway, why is this incorrect? Let's go into canon chronologically, and we're going to start off with the Metroid manga. Here she is at 3 years old. Now, this is in the game timeline. This is on the cosmic calendar year of 2000. Now, there's a little bit of a mix-up. People aren't sure. They think Samus was born in the cosmic calendar year of 2000. This is not the Gregorian calendar. And she's 3 years old here, which would make it 2003. Or she is 3 years old in cosmic calendar year 2000. I'm just going to go with she's 3 in the year 2000 for simplicity's sake. So here she is, and yeah, she has short hair, and some folks may say, well, that's starting to look like it might be possible she's really a dude. But in a couple panels over, she goes running into where her dad was having negotiations with the Chozo and accidentally bonks into Old Bird. Well, after they become acquainted here, she says she could use some help from him, grabs his hand, and drags him off in the middle of negotiations where Old Bird tells Grey Voice, continue the negotiation without me. What does her dad say when that happens? That girl will be the death of me. Exhibit A. All right. So a few hours later, space pirates attacked that space colony and wiped everybody out. Samus and Pionchi, they're the only survivors. The Chozo come back to help, and they find she's it. She's the only one left. So they take her to their planet Zebes, to look after her because she has no one, nowhere to go, nothing. So when they bring her there, they're trying to figure out what they should do with her. And what happens is the planet's computer, Mother Brain, no, she's not important later in the series at all. No, she comes up and says, "We don't have the resources to keep humans here. It will be necessary for us to keep her restricted to Brinstar and Criteria." All right. So what we have here is Samus at 3 years old on planet Zebes, all by herself, no other humans around. She's like, there aren't any kids here. Where are my friends? She is the only human being on this planet at 3 years old. And she will spend the next 11 years there. So they end up, let me go this. So they infuse her with Chozo DNA, and that helps her be able to survive the atmosphere and conditions and environment of this planet. So this effectively makes her superhuman. But so you could say she's trans species because she's had her genes altered, and that is why part of the reason why she grows so tall. She reaches 6'3" at her adult height. But what happens is, let's fast forward to that 11 years of training. Here she is, age 14. Looks a lot like a chick to me. How about you guys? And then we jump forward again.
She's hot.
At 14?
I mean, if I was 14, that's what I would say.
Okay. So here she is again, age 14, looking very much feminine in her, what do they say, body type A, body type B? Well, this is body type B, I guess. I don't know. I don't know which one they assigned to it, but either way, very much female biologically. Now, let's jump to her. This is her at age either 18 or 20. They weren't exactly precise on how much time had passed. But here she's working with the Galactic Federation Police. She is a police officer. Here she is. And how she's grown and developed, she seems to be following natural female progression there, right? And then we jump to later. Here she is, age 28. At age 28, she's looking pretty ladylike, I would say, and everything they've depicted in here has been very much how a natural female body would develop as time goes on. Now, going in game, in Metroid Prime 1, there is a scan log where Samus hacks into the space pirates databases and finds a log 10.023.7 entitled The Hunter, where the space pirates say, Security Command issued an all points alert after the fall of Zebes. The alert concerns bioform Samus Aran, also known as the Hunter. Subject is female hominid and heavily armed. Female hominid. So this is all in canon, going along the lines of what, in canon, both in literature and in game. So like I said, if someone wants to play a game and put whatever headcanon they want into that game as they play, that's fine. You do you. It is your prerogative. But in official canon, no, it's clearly, this is almost 40 years of canon because it came out here in the States in 88. So I think it came out in Japan either 86 or 87. So we're looking at almost 40 years of her canonically being female. Yes, in the manual of Metroid 1, it said he and referred to him as a dude, but that's because they were trying to have the big surprise reveal at the end. If you speed run the game and she removes her armor, you see she is a woman. That was supposed to be a big surprise. That's why they kept it that way in the original manual. That surprise is long gone. So in the remake, they did not do that at all because everybody knew at that point. But there it is, all in game. And so sorry guys, if you want her to be trans, then in your own headcanon, that's fine. But as Taika Waititi wisely said once, I'll ruin your mythos in a minute, baby. And in canon, she is definitely female. And if that just isn't quite enough, then remember what Shakira said. Hips don't lie. And there's no indication that she was ever at any point a dude. Check out them hips. I don't see any.
She's got the catwalk as well.
Yeah, I don't see any male bodies walking quite like that. So in canon, she is absolutely a female. She is a real woman. So I rest my case.
As a child, when she was by herself, she imagined herself as a pirate ninja boy. And so she became a boy, and then later she became a girl again. So I'm kidding.
All right. The Grand Page has left a couple comments. He says, or she says, I don't know. By the Mary Sue's article's own standards, we don't know Samus's gender because she hasn't told us. Or, crazy idea, we recognize basic biology as a thing, and Samus is a woman. Correct. And he goes on to say, someone tried to claim something similar about Mulan on one of my videos. These people are so desperate for other people to validate them because they can't validate themselves. Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is, if they want to have trans characters in video games, by all means, make a trans character. But you don't take someone who's got 30 plus, almost 40 years of canon, lore, and history, and just retcon all that to make 2 or 3 people feel better.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry, that's
we
not
see
how
the
it works.
same problem in comic books as well. They don't want to make their own characters because their own characters won't be popular. They want to take the spotlight. They want to take something that's already beloved and dear to people and change that, take control of that. And it's like it's domination, right? It's a power move. It's saying, I now impose this upon you.
Oh, I'm now drawing a blank. There is a character in DC who is fairly well liked, and he is canonically gay, married to a dude, and he has been since the very beginning. And unfortunately, I'm blanking on his name. And this dude is badass. Like, his head is pretty much a supercomputer. So as soon as he enters a fight, he automatically processes like every possible scenario in the fight on how to, pretty much he's already mentally gone through all the possibilities and won the fight before it started. And this is a pretty badass character, and I'm sorry I'm blanking on his name right now. But he's been since the very beginning gay, and that's fine. He was made that way. He's canonically been that way since day one, and that character did well. You don't have to go and take other pre-existing characters and do that like they did with Iceman. That was just out of nowhere. And aren't they trying to do that with Tim Drake as well now?
Yeah, they started doing that, and same with Superman's son. It's demoralization, right? It's taking something you already understand and love and destroying it, basically.
Yeah.
The Netflix version of Samus will be a black man.
Well, they did that to Splinter Cell recently. So
Yeah.
Splinter Cell
Wait,
traditionally is a white man.
Here's the Netflix version of Samus. Yeah, and if I'm not sure, I didn't look it up and confirm this for myself, but this Baldur's Gate actress, Abigail Thorne, from what I understand, she's a trans woman, and she would like to play Samus in a Metroid movie. So can't say there aren't ulterior motives to her pushing that, but you just can't just take an existing character and change everything about it, like I said, to make a couple of people feel better. It's just not how it works.
Well, excuse me, princess.
They sure try, though.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 actress. Does that mean voice actress?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
does it come out with the live action movie thing for it?
Yeah, Abigail Thorne. For years now, a popular fan theory, has circulated the internet speculating that Metroid Samus Aran is trans. These theories cite her size and build as key elements as to why she could be a trans woman, and fuel was only added to the fire in 2015 in that article we read at the beginning of the spiel. But now speaking to us at The Gamer, The Gamer, prominent trans actress Abigail Thorne from Baldur's Gate 3, House of the Dragon, Andor, has called on Nintendo to come out and tell us what we already know and confirm the long-running fan theory. Is this really a fan theory? I don't think so. There's just, I don't think that this is the primary target audience who go out and play video games. I could be wrong. There could be quite a few, but typically, I think most of the people who are fans of the Metroid series never saw her this way, and the only reason they're hearing about this is because a few people who got identity politics in the brain are pushing this stuff, and it's going viral all over the place. But I think I've pretty well laid out why this is incorrect in canon.
Yeah, they're living in their own bubble.
I live in my own bubble too. I will fully admit that. But I do try to, stay somewhat grounded. I don't always succeed, but I try. But that's pretty much the whole case. If anybody out there in the interwebs or on panel have any questions or any reasons why I could be wrong, by all means, please point it out to me.
Well, it's like them and their 3 or 4 friends came up with this theory, and to them, they've got the whole headcanon around it, and nobody else has ever heard of it before.
Yep. Yeah, but like I said, the last couple of days, it's been blowing up all over YouTube. People addressing this, and a lot of them are coming out and saying, "Well, obviously this is wrong, and this Samus isn't a trans woman," which I agree with, but none of them have laid out the evidence in canon why that is incorrect, and so I thought I would do so. because otherwise it's just a whole bunch of he said, she said, and people bickering. I just wanted to bring the actual evidence as to
You
why.
mean they, them say?
True.
Oh yeah. We I've lost track of what is it, so many pronouns out there. Some of them just don't even make sense anymore. I mean, like I said, people are people. They can do what they want, but it's just factually incorrect when it comes to canon.
Zippity zoozah, zippity zay. Just add more as you go and have a good day.
MAJI-CHAN says, sadly, Nintendo changes their lore with the money, so it's hard to know. I don't know if they exactly change their lore, but they do change their timelines. Metroid has been pretty steady singular timeline, but if you look at that Zelda timeline, oh boy, what a mess. There's like, I think 3-4 different alternate timelines, and
Yeah,
some
I have
of
the
which
Zelda
Link is
book.
theoretically dead.
I have the book here on Zelda with the whole historical timeline laid out.
Yeah,
It's weird.
how hairy does that thing get? Does it turn into spaghetti?
I haven't looked at it recently, but there's some weird stuff like the second game apparently is like way out. Very different timeline. Like it's not right after the first one like you'd expect.
Yeah. For example, I think the first game is not the beginning of the overall timeline. In Zelda 2, Link is it looks like Zelda from the first one has fallen under a spell and is sleeping.
No, it's
But
clearly
it turns
not.
out Link was doing this for a previous Zelda.
Yeah, it's not the same Zelda. So they decided to name every princess Zelda in honor of one of the Zeldas, the first Zelda probably.
Right.
And I know in the first game, I think Link is something like 14 years old, and then the second game he's supposed to be 16 years old at the
Yeah.
time the game came out.
So,
But I
so
think
the
there's
Zelda
been-
he saved in the first game is perfectly fine. He's doing this for a Zelda that's been sleeping for a couple hundred years.
Yeah, I think it's 1,000.
That's a long nap. I honestly sometimes wouldn't mind taking that nap, but
Yeah.
Like, can I just do that every winter? I want to spend winter like the chipmunks do.
You could try. I mean, the
They wake
holiday
up every 3
season's
days to
coming up.
eat and poop and go back to sleep.
You have vacation during Christmas season, Christmas holidays?
Well, my vacation time is coming up, I think next week or week after. And I will be spending my vacation time trying to get the rest of my manuscript squared away for Mystified Investigations and get a more solid start on United States Stellar Marshals.
Sweet.
Yeah, you know what? Since I'm talking about it, I think this is a good time to run my trailer. Here we go.
Katie and Elizabeth are back, and this time the Spuds are really going to fly. Who's wild? And this time the Spuds are really going to fly. And Katie's world. Who's wild? And this time the Spuds are really going to fly. Who's world? And this time the Spuds are really going to fly.
So I've got the Hyrule Historia here.
Wow.
I actually had 2 copies of these at one point. I got one for myself and I got one as a gift too. There's a place with the history in it. Let me try to pull that up so we can kind of dissect it a little bit. Maybe it's towards the end, isn't it? We got some history here. the whole era thing happening, but I'm trying to look for the games.
Oh, by the way, the Grand Page who had commented, he mentioned his channel, so I just went to take a look and see subscriptions. Are those for? No, those are mine. Okay, I thought I was going to say we got the same subscriptions, but no, that's just a sidebar for my own stuff. But he looks like he's into comics. He's got videos, the State of the Ripperverse, Returning to the Man of Steel, Batman Cape Crusader Episode 1 review. So his channel might be fun to check out. I'm going to share the link to it in the chat.
So we've got the Legend of Princess Zelda 1 is in the era of decline. But there's like huge history around Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
And I've been replaying it. I passed the Legend of Zelda game a couple of weeks ago. And now I'm on the second quest, which I've never played. So I'm looking forward to trying that. I hear the mazes, the dungeons are different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the overworld is pretty similar, except they changed some things, like where there used to be entrances to dungeons. They've been replaced. And when you go into the dungeons, excuse me, they've been changed. The maps are different because one of the map makers in the original quest fucked up and only used half of the data, which is the best kind of fucking up because you don't want to use twice as much data as you need. So that's when they decided to do a second quest. They had all this extra space left over after the game was completed. So they created more dungeons and kind of reworked the map a little bit for the second quest, which is a great thing to have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the only Zelda games I played were The Legend of Zelda and then Zelda 2: A Link to the Past, and then I'm sorry, the Adventures of Link, and then A Link to the Past. I hadn't played any past that. They all went 3D, and I just wasn't interested.
Okay, I've got all the details here. So you've got the child era, the adult era, and the third one here that's not named. You have Era of Light and Dark, Golden Era, and Era of Decline. So it starts off with the Link to the Past. Apparently is the first one.
Oh, really?
Then you have Oracles of Ages and Oracles of Seasons, which I have no idea what that is. Then you have Link's Awakening. That's a game where I think you're actually sleeping or something. Then
I think that was wasn't it a Game Boy Advance or a 3DS game or something like that?
I think so. Yeah, it's a Game Boy Advance, I believe. Then you got the Legend of Zelda. This is where it falls. And then the Adventure of Link is right after it. Then we dive into Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Four Swords Adventures. I'm not familiar with that one. The Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks. Oh, there's one other here before. Skyward Sword, the Minish Cap, Four Swords, Ocarina of Time.
So is Ocarina of Time where the timeline split into multiple parallels?
I've never played it.
I'm looking at the line that's coming down the page, and then it branches off.
Oh, you're right.
Into 3 columns.
You're right. Okay, yeah, it turns into literally 3. So, okay, Ocarina of Time. There's the hero is defeated. So if the hero is defeated, that's when you get to the original games. The hero is triumphant. That's where you go to Majora's Mask. And if the Sacred Realm remains protected, and this is the child era and the adult era is under the hero is triumphant thing. So you got parallel timelines depending on if he's defeated or not.
Yeah. This is kind of why you need the manual like this to keep track of them all, because my guess is, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess they probably figured out how all the timelines fit together like after the fact and had to do some finagling.
Oh, most likely. I mean, they were not too worried about timelines and sticking close to the lore when they did the first and second game. I mean, the first one, they were actually wanting to do some time travel. Link, that's why he's called Link. He was supposed to be the link from the past to the future.
Yeah,
But
and Nintendo's never been never mixed words on the fact that they go with making a fun game first and then consider story second.
yeah, and the Triforce was supposed to be circuits as well. So you were supposed to actually do some time traveling within the first game, right? Straight off the bat. And the second game, none of the people working on the first game were working on the second game. It was a completely different team because the people who were working on the first game, I believe, went on to do Mario 2. So
Which Mario 2, the what we know here in the States is the Lost Levels, or the one that was the reskin of Doki Doki Panic?
I'm not sure enough to venture an answer to that. But all I know is relevant to the conversation is they were not the ones working on the second game. And the second game, the lead to the second game never got to lead another Zelda project because it's one of the only games that's considered to be a failure on the part of Nintendo.
Yeah, and I do like what they were going for, but the execution was not done well.
Yeah, and it was not a failure financially, just to be clear. Like they made its money. I think it was the top 7 or something. So it clearly made a lot of money. But like Legend of Zelda they decided to go back to the model, obviously with the Link to the Past in the Super Nintendo game, which is, top down, bringing back a lot of the enemies and dungeon systems.
I loved that game. I played through that a few times. It was just fun.
I just started a game with it. I have too many games right now, so I'm kind of dispersed between a lot of stuff.
Oh, understood.
But yeah, I started a game on Link to the Past too.
I mean, Prime 4 just came out, and it's going to be at least a couple months before I touch it. And yeah, I've heard the good reviews. I've heard the bad reviews. I've heard the some who are just individually split. Like, I don't mean some players like it, some players don't, which there is that. But I mean, some people, they say there's all this that I love about it, and there's this other stuff I hate about it. And I've sat and I don't care about spoilers, so I watched all the cutscenes. They've been on YouTube, so I watched them all. And I'm still willing to give it a shot. After all, when it was announced in 2017, that was the entire reason I bought a Switch. So I'm going to see that through and get it and play it. And having watched the cutscenes, this one's definitely much more story driven. So it's a much more on rails, and you're not going to have sequence breaking and stuff like in traditional Metroid games. And I see the things that the people are complaining about, but I also see what they were trying to go for with the story. And personally, I understand most people say there shouldn't be dialogue in Metroid. There shouldn't be her working with others. There should be isolation. Most of the series, yes. I don't mind an occasional game where she has to work with others or put together a team. I'm okay with that. I didn't like how they delivered the lines. I liked what they were trying to convey, but I think it was a swing and a miss on how they did it. Considering these guys, they're trained Federation troopers. They shouldn't have been so overly chatty or corny or cringy, which in some ways they toned it down a bit and then ramped it up again in other areas. But it's like once in a while a game where you got dialogue and interpersonal characters and stuff is okay. Just don't do it every time. That'll tank the series if you do that regularly. But I looked at what they did. I'm like, with a bit of a rewrite on the lines and a better delivery, the story they were trying to go for could have worked a lot better, in my opinion. But I'm still willing to give it a shot. It looks like it could be fun. There's some out there saying, hey, this is a great game. It's just not a great Metroid game because of all this. And yeah, there was tonal clash. And if they toned that down, it could have worked a lot better. However, there are some who understandably, even if it was delivered well, wouldn't want that in their game whatsoever because there are purists who are like, it's Samus is a silent protagonist. There shouldn't be dialogue, and she should be on her own every time. And it's like, I get where they're coming from. I don't totally disagree with them, just a little bit, you know. And we all have our own different opinions, our likes, dislikes, and how we think a series should go. But so I understand the complaints, and I do understand the praises, and I can see both sides on this. But I'm still going to give the game a shot myself. My biggest worry is the controls. Metroid Prime 1 and 2 had what they called the tank controls. And for Metroid Prime 3, they had the Wii. It was on the Wii, and so it was a totally different control setup, but it worked very well. For this one, they just have the dual analog twin sticks. The typical. I mean, they have motion controls or mouse controls if you're on the Switch too, but they don't have the classic GameCube tank controls. And whenever I tried when on the remaster, when that came out, I tried the twin stick. I couldn't do it. I was just all messed up. I tried to get used to it, and I couldn't. I went back to the tank controls, and I was fine. And I'm not going to have those tank controls as an option in 4, so I'm not sure how well I'm going to proceed with this.
Yeah.
I never got to play Zelda. Well, I take that back. I visited a friend or a cousin or something, and they had it, and they stuck it in the Nintendo thing and loaded it up, and they were showing me a spot and they go ahead and play with it. And I was like trying to do the controls and stuff, and I was like, I moved the character around on the screen, but I had no clue where to go because I couldn't. It was like trapped in this area or something.
That's the whole point. It's a game of discovery, and you are expected to read the manual. So a lot of people complain nowadays, like, "Oh, you don't know, I don't understand anything. It's too cryptic or obtuse." But you're missing the context. You're actually supposed to have the manual and read it before you start the game. And the game was also made in the context that people were going to talk with their friends about the progress they would make, and they would share secrets. So you're supposed to actually go on the internet and look up stuff.
Yeah, back then it was meant to be this. They wanted kids talking to each other in the schoolyard. They wanted it to be a communal thing.
It is before the internet. But yeah, I had no clue what I was doing. They wouldn't tell me anything about what was going on. They just and then it's like time was up or whatever, we had to go or something. But I think I got to play Dragon Quest, and I definitely played Bard's Tale. And Bard's Tale was brutal. Luckily, the person that gave I got to play from their stuff. I think they had already leveled up their characters a bunch. And here a couple of years ago, I think I got Bard's Tale via GOG, and I tried playing it with all brand new characters. It's brutal. It's brutal. You can have an all brand new level 1 party, and you just get random encounters as you walk down the street. And so you can walk into a group that has 2 sets of monsters in it, and one of them is like goblins and the other is hobgoblins, and they murder your entire party.
Yeah, Zelda one's pretty brutal as well. You gotta progress, getting more hearts and more powerful weapons, and even potions to refuel your hearts as well. But the thing is, usually the big baddies, the bosses, are not that hard. It's the damn enemies in the rooms on the way to go to the boss that are the worst, And some of the dungeons are like mazes, and you have to find secret doors. You have to blow up walls, and the game does not give you cheats, right? It does not show you cracks in the wall where you can put a bomb. All the walls look nice and clean and finished.
And that is something it shares in common with Metroid. The original Metroid had a lot of that as well. And sometimes it was pretty well linked to progression to figure that out. Now, biggest difference, you had overhead view versus side scroller. And that's probably why I took to Metroid so much, because I really like the side scrollers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, Bard's Tale doesn't have a starting area. It's just put my party together, walked out of the tavern, and bam, on that first square, random encounter, 2 party members dead, the rest of them badly injured. I have to go back in the tavern and spend the coin that I don't have because they're brand new characters to rest for the night.
Funny thing with Zelda is they moved from overhead to side scroller with Zelda from Zelda 1 to Zelda 2, which
Yeah, and I think I played Zelda 2 more than any of the other Zeldas. I had friends at school hand me their Zelda 2 cartridge and say, "Hey, can you go through, just get them all leveled up and all the stuff? Don't beat any of the bosses. Just get all the." They just wanted Link beefed up so they could go beat the bosses. So I took it home and I went out into the field, and those little weird glob enemies. I spent I spent the weekend just slaying a bunch of them, getting the experience points, and then going into the dungeons, getting everything unlocked, but not actually killing the bosses. So
yeah,
I handed it back to him, said just run through and beat everybody.
Everyone agrees that it's the most difficult game, and it's the worst game of the bunch. Not saying it's a bad game, categorically, but it is the most difficult and the hardest. Now the thing is, if you get it now on the Switch, like if you get a modern version of it, they now start you with all the spells, and you're beefed up already, as if because when you go through the game once, you can play the game again on easy mode. And when you buy the modern version of the game, they start you off on easy mode because it was just way too hard. They kind of like the developers put it up to the difficulty that suited them as they were playtesting it, but they were like playing it every day for 2 years while they were making it. So they knew the game in and out. And when kids got to it, it was just too hard. It's too difficult.
Dragon Quest, I believe, was like a top-down map, kind of like the Zelda Overland map. And then whenever you had an encounter, it would pop up with like a text screen, and it might have a picture of the monster or something, but then all of your combat choices were via a text screen. And then same with Bard's Tale, you could do either top-down map, although it didn't look as good as Zelda, or you were like looking down the alleyway as you were moving forward.
Now in Zelda 2, I did not like the top-down map, the overworld map. I thought it was a step down from the first one. And I get it was meant to be more overworld, like not primary gameplay like Zelda 1, but I do wish they would have stuck with a more Zelda 1 style for their overworld. And then the dungeons or temples or whatever, I just thought it was bad design. They wanted to have a maze and stuff, but it was just like nonsense, dead ends and stuff. You weren't really getting discovery. You were just trying to find the other end to fight the boss. And that was kind of lackluster. I think if Zelda 2 is a game that could use a remaster, or not a remaster, a full-blown remake, because they wanted to have a little bit of those Metroid elements in there when you went into the temples. And if they remade that today, I think it could be a fantastic game, especially for an old part side scroller like me.
Now, the old Zelda games, like you'd have an encounter and it would like zoom into the combat or something, and you would participate in the combat, right?
Not in the first one. That's all in the second one.
Okay, because like with both Bard's Tale and Dragon Quest, when you got a random encounter, it was like a text screen, like I said, with like a picture, and then your choices were like run away or fight. And then whenever you do the fight, then each character, as it goes through the initiative round, each character would get, and depending upon if they were in the front line or the back line, they could do a melee attack if they were in the front line, or they could do a missile or spell if they were in the back line. It was all like text.
Yeah, the original Zelda, the creator hated text, so he tried to reduce the number of menus you had to the minimum. That's why in the first game, the only menu you have is your item selection menu. Zelda 2, they added the menu because you have to use spells. and that was, he hated that as well. That they had to do a minimum of menus. But in the first one, it's just you're literally in combat all the time. So like you're just walking around the world, and you can attack at any time. Like there's no fight sequence. It's real time. In other words, it's a real open world, and it's real time as well.
Kind of like Mario in a side scroller, or is it top down?
It's top down for the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not Mario because Mario's linear. At least the earlier Mario.
Well, I mean side scrolling rather than top down. That's what I meant.
Yeah, and so the thing with Zelda, the big thing with that game that stumped everybody, a lot of people at the time, that was the whole point of the game, is you don't know where to go. That's meant to be. That's the whole point, is you are faced with the prospect of discovery. You start off on a screen with the door. That's clear indication of the first thing to do is you go in, you get your sword, and now you start to understand, okay, I have to enter spaces, get items to progress. And then you have 3 options to go directionally, and you have enemies in each direction, but they're entry-level enemies, so you get your first contact with the world nice and slow. It's really genius work for the first exploration of games. Most of the critiques I hear today, I think they're just made by pussies. It's not a hard game if you progress slowly and you have a little bit of, because almost every screen has a secret, so it's not like the secrets are super rare and hard to you have secrets almost every screen. So and they're mostly pretty obvious when you start thinking. Like I've seen people play without reading the manual, without having ever played Zelda, and if you just stop to think and try to reflect on where things might be, it's pretty intuitive where things are.
Yeah, I think had I gone that route, like started a new game or something, it might have been a bit more intuitive and stuff. But I think my friend or cousin, whoever it was, they were at a point where they were stumped, and they just handed me the controller and you figure it out.
You're talking about Zelda 2. That's a different game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's really hard. And when you die, they send you all the way back. So the first one was really...
Well, it'll make you pull your hair out.
The first one, when you died at a dungeon, you started at the beginning of the dungeon. It was really fair. But the second game, you had to start all the way up for the map, and it was a large map. The first one, when you were on the overworld, you did that as well. You started back on the start screen, but it's a small map, so it wasn't too bad. You could go back to wherever you were in 5 minutes.
Yeah, one exploration-based game that years ago I got addicted to for a while was Prince of Persia. I'm talking on the computer, the old original one, and that was a lot of fun. It was very much exploration-based and running, jumping, some platforming, doing pull-ups over ledges, and trying to figure out where you're going and how everything works. That was a great game, especially for its time.
I don't think I've ever played that one. I've seen videos of it, but never played it myself.
Well, I was just a straight-up idiot growing up.
So I discovered a strange new concept in gaming yesterday called, how there's speed runs of games? You've got the 100% where you have to do everything in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then you have the any percent, which is you try to finish the game as fast as possible and do as little as possible, whatever. Or you do what you want basically to get done as fast as quickly as possible. Then there's this new thing called low percent, which is not as focused on time as it is on the number of items you get or the number of things you accomplished. And you have these weird, is it Ocarina of Time? Or no, it's another version of another Zelda game. where they found a bug where you're missing a frame when you pick up an item. And if you leave the game be, your character will slowly go backwards and clip into walls, right? But it's over multiple hours, right? You leave the game overnight. So people are making speed runs of 24 hours. And they're just staring. The Link character is just picking up a gem and staring at it. But that clips you into areas you're not supposed to get to just yet. So, and especially the most important thing in the low percent is not picking up items. So if you don't have to pick up a key and you can just stare at an item, like a gem, then this qualifies you lower, like higher up on the rank because you had less items, despite it taking many more hours. So you're ranked by the number of items and then the time it takes. So if you have less items, you trump people who have less time. It's very strange.
No, there are typically, for the most part, I mean, there are other types of speedruns, but for the most part, you got two types, like you mentioned, the 100% or the any percent. And each of those can be broken into two categories: glitch free, or glitches, or glitch free. Because people will use glitches for clipping or doing something they're not supposed to be able to do yet. And
riding your horse
one of the things
backwards
I
up
like
the
to do
mountainside.
on Metroid Dread, and I'm probably, since I got this new setup, I might plug my Switch in over here and capture card and do a speed run of Metroid Dread on stream one night. But I do glitch free, and it takes me about 2 hours and 20 minutes to go from beginning to end. And I guess anything under 3 hours on Dread is considered a speed run. Now, there are ways to do glitch free in like about an hour and 20. I haven't figured out that route yet myself, but I have a route that I do like to run where I could do it in 2 hours and 20 minutes. And
Herman.
Edge.
Oh, you know what that means? We got to play his intro.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. Better, stronger, faster.
The Bionic Hedge. The $6 million hedge. Hedge Austin.
You were talking about speed runs?
Yeah, so I might plug in my Switch over here and hook up the capture card and do a speed run on stream one night of Metroid Dread. But I actually sucked at trying to get the glitches down, and some of the glitches that they do is like, how did they figure this out? Wow. And some of them are just bonkers.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm not as good as the pro speed runners, not by a long shot.
Yeah.
But another difficult run that people will do is called the pacifist run. There's a way to get through the game with absolute minimum kills. Like this is the absolute lowest number of kills you can make. So they're just avoiding the enemies on screen. They're supposed to do as little harm as possible. And those are just, you got to be a masochist to do these. I look at them, I'm like, no way.
Yeah, there's people in Zelda that try to beat the game with only 3 hearts. So by never picking up a heart and staying at your starting point of 3 hearts, there's people who play with just the wooden sword, or they don't upgrade or there's people who play without picking up the sword in the first place. So you have to get other weapons, which is just crazy.
I can't imagine trying that one. That is.
Well, you have to be a pro. Like you have to basically be really good at avoiding the on-screen enemies, and until you find your first weapon, because you have to usually kill stuff to move forward in the game.
Yeah, but Herman says, so Wrangler. So did Wrangler go into full drama mode?
Oh,
I don't know, guys. Would you consider it drama mode, what I did?
Well, I don't know if the word is drama, but you got emotional. Like this is your baby, and you want to defend the identity and the history and the chronology of your favorite franchise. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong there.
And it
I
was
mean,
a good
there are
defense.
some things I cannot defend. Like, does other M work well in my own headcanon? No, it doesn't. But it's canon. I have to accept that. You know, like I said, I may also live in my own bubble, but I try to be fairly grounded in it. So it's like, hey, just like Samus is in canon, not at all trans, I have to accept that in canon, other M happened. You know, I am not the curator of this franchise. I have nothing to do with its creation. It's just my favorite, and I have my own thoughts and feelings on it all the time. But canon is canon, and whether I like it or not, other M is canon. Whether the identity politic guys like it or not, Samus is a natural woman.
Yeah, well, you went back to the source and pointed out stuff from the comic or the manga.
The manga, the games.
And so you've got canon that proves the point.
Yeah.
And you did it quite well.
Thank you.
To be fair, though, I don't think facts are going to change their feelings.
True.
Yeah, but facts don't care about their feelings. They don't care about mine either. So
I think they're allergic to facts.
True.
Oh, is that the problem?
Something like that.
Yeah, they have a fact allergy.
They're fact phobic, I would think.
Yeah, I would agree. Yes.
Got to take an anti-factamine.
Oh God.
Anyway, it is about that time. Anything else anyone wants to put in before we start parting plugs?
Oh, if you haven't been already, start collecting your nickels, because after the pennies, the nickels are probably going to go next.
Give me all the buffalo head nickels.
Well, even the new current ones are made of the same material as the old buffalo ones.
Oh, nice. I thought they weren't really nickel anymore.
Nope. They've not changed the material. The material is the same, so it still has the same amount of copper too. I've been dropping mine in my copper bin.
Sweet. All right. Well, looks like it is that time. So let's do them parting plugs. We will start with Readout.
Greetings. There's a crap ton of videos you can go watch on my channel right now. I've been working extensively on them. All types of American history. Most recent ones have been about Philadelphia's tie to the American Revolution, but I got a few more surprises coming up before the new year. And as I mentioned earlier in the stream, new year, I have two major editions of Retracing History coming up. One on the USS Olympia and one on the USS New Jersey, but that'll be after the holidays. Need some time to edit that.
Alrighty. And then we got Raven.
Hey, yeah, I've been working on stuff, but I've got a long ways to go. In the meanwhile, check out The Revenant and the Cult and the other books by Herman P. Hunter. Buy his book.
Yep, The Wizard's Stone, The Revenant in the Tomb, The Revenant in the Cult, The Revenant in the Cult Part 2. I think that's The Witchwood, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so check those out. They are on Amazon or I think pretty much anywhere books are sold. All right. Frederick.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
So I just closed my campaign on Saturday, so I'm going to take a break from promoting that just for this week.
Congratulations.
And I'm going to invite you to check out my YouTube stream tomorrow, where we're going to be talking to the musician who did the music for the trailer, and we'll watch the trailer a couple of times. I'm going to end up promoting myself, regardless. Yeah, I've got a new trailer. We'll be looking at that. We'll be talking with a musician, someone who's like Bitcoin oriented. All his music is made on the topic. We're going to be talking about his journey in there as well, and it's going to be fascinating. So subscribe and check it out tomorrow.
All right. And you can check out my stuff on Amazon, Haley Star Bad Kitty and Bad Kitty Haley's World. It's a little bit sci-fi, a little bit fantasy, and a whole lot of fun. So go on an adventure with Haley and Elizabeth and Sabrina as they go through underground complexes and try and find their way through the labyrinth to beat the bad guys, so to speak. And yeah, they got a whole bunch of stuff going on. And also check out my Substack under Frequency Studios. Just dropped the first E out of it because somebody else already had that on Substack, so I had to alter mine. But over there, I have a short story called New World Detectives, The Legend of Solar. Set in the same continuity as Haley and Elizabeth. Sorry, the Haley and Elizabeth aren't in it, but it is connected. People who are in the books, a couple do show up in the story itself, and so you can see how what they did in the books affects the world around them as the LAPD has to deal with some of the fallout. Anyway, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you enjoyed this presentation, hit the like, and if you didn't, we appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you next time, and God bless.
God bless.
Samus is a broad through and through.
So is Zelda.
God bless.
There's actually multiple links. It's not the same link. It could be his genealogy from game to game, you know?
But they're all left-handed, right?
No, he changes his hand, I think, in one game. Is it the second game, perhaps?
So even Link has a black sheep in his incarnation line.
Seems that way. There's always one, you know.
Jewish space lasers.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.